Joining us now, MS Now's Inzamam Rashid in Dubai and MS Now international affairs analyst, former Ambassador Michael McFaul. Inzamam, where might this standoff go from here? What are you hearing?
I think it leaves us with more questions than answers right now, Chris. And the big question is exactly where do we go from here? When you've got a day like today where Iran has taken military force in the Strait of Hormuz, targeting 3 separate vessels, seizing 2 of them, their gunboats once again out on the waters in the Strait of Hormuz and targeting and attacking vessels, causing damage to them as well. It's believed that not crew members weren't injured, but there was damage to 2 of the vessels that they had targeted, and now seizing another 2 vessels and essentially bringing them back to Iranian soil. And I think this whole episode today just puts a big question mark over whether peace talks and peace negotiations can actually go ahead. Iran hasn't actually yet responded to President Trump's announcement overnight about this ceasefire, about this indefinite ceasefire until they receive a viable plan from Iran. But right now, the ball very much remains in Iran's court. It's up to them whether they want to come to the negotiation table. Now, speaking to some sources inside Pakistan, those who are involved in these peace discussions, it's my understanding that the Pakistanis will try and push Iran significantly over the next few days to try and get them to come to the negotiation table, to have direct discussions with the US. In fact, I think the Pakistani army leader, Asim Munir, General Asim Munir, the field marshal, will probably go on a bit of a charm offensive in the next few days towards Iran to try and get them to come to the table. But as I mentioned, all of this confrontation on the Strait of Hormuz now, and yes, there is a ceasefire in place and the fighting isn't happening on land, but right now it's the waterway which is causing huge question marks. And where do we go next is obviously the big question, Chris.
Well, that is the big question, Ambassador. President Trump then issuing another threat. He's rejecting a call to open the strait, that there can't be a deal with Iran, that they can't trust them unless they blow up the rest of their country, their leaders included, is what he says. Ambassador, what do you make the way these, if you want to call them negotiations, are playing out, which is on Truth Social and statements from Iran?
Well, it's all very disappointing and hard to predict. I agree with the conversation you just had. Second, I think it is extremely dangerous for President Trump to make these escalatory statements unless he's prepared to follow through with them. I don't think this helps the negotiation process when you make threats that you don't deliver. And I hope he doesn't deliver those threats, because I think that would be catastrophic in terms of trying to get a deal in the future. What I think would be a better strategy is, rather than deciding does the Vice President of the United States of America get on a plane or not to negotiate a settlement, what about lower level talks? What about experts on Iran's nuclear capabilities, for instance, right? Start something low level with experts so that you have some momentum. What we're doing now is we're toggling back and forth between immediate breakthrough and nothing. And so far, that is not achieving any results.
Well, yeah, and we've never seen that Donald Trump has a particular love for patience, right? Or making things go the way they used to go. He wants to blow things up literally and figuratively. David Ignatius wrote, you may have seen this in the Washington Post, Trump and the Iranians both appear to enjoy this game of chicken. Both seem to want a deal, but insist that they don't need it and that the other side wants it more. Both are hurting economically, but they boast that they're willing to keep fighting indefinitely. Every time they near an exit ramp, they veer away. So what's it going to take for one of these sides to say enough and actually take the exit ramp?
Well, tragically, I think the Iranian regime and the despotic dictatorship that we're negotiating with, this notion that they're pragmatic, I do not see any evidence to that. They have more leverage right now. All they need to do is to survive. This is an existential threat to their regime. And if they survive, that's victory. for our side, for the United States side, it's not an existential threat. It's a problem about electoral politics, as you just implied. And therefore, I think that puts the pressure on the American side. But to get out of games of chicken, this is not the first time a negotiation has been escalatory in this tit-for-tat way. Lots of cases of it. Sometimes you just need to take baby steps rather than trying to get a quick deal. And the fact, as you pointed out, that the president is so impatient, that undermines the ability of the American side to negotiate effectively. Impatience is never useful when you're negotiating any international agreement, let alone one so consequential with such a tough regime to negotiate with.
So I want to play how Republican Senator John Kennedy described the leaders of Iran right now. Here it is.
It's like the cantina bar scene in Star Wars.
Precisely.
You have a bunch of the new leaders. Some of them are scared. All of them are angry. Some of them are crazy. I would describe it as dealing with Charles Manson.
I mean, we've talked a lot about mixed messaging from Trump and his administration, but on the Iranian side, Ambassador, is it just as or even more chaotic and maybe even a predictable consequence of taking out so many Iranian leaders, coupled with the IRGC being on the ascendancy since then?
Well, first, we don't really know. We should be humble in what we can assess about what's going on within the Iranian regime. And I say that it's hard to know. Second, however, if I'm guessing, this notion that they're divided and they can't negotiate, I don't see any evidence to support that hypothesis. Ghalibaf is their main negotiator. He's been around forever, by the way. This notion, he's been a leader for a long, long time. I think they have a policy, and we are hoping that it's just division is why they're not negotiating. I think they think time is on their side. And the point about rationality or not, crazy versus not, I don't think that's very useful. Of course, they're crazy, in my view. They kill tens of thousands of their own citizens. That is horrible, crazy, irrational behavior. But the notion that trust plays any role in negotiations, especially with autocratic regimes, just set that aside. It's not about trust. Can we find a solution that is in their interest and in our interest together? That is the task at hand, and you can't figure that out if you're not actually talking to them.